All right, so we're back. Anyway, so the beginning of the class wasn't being recorded, so just a short catch up. So we're on page 3. Well, now we're on page 317. So we're saying the only reason why a person doesn't overcome or reasons with himself, it's okay to do the avera, is because he's not thinking clearly. Because mitzvah means you're connected, and avera means you're separated. No one consciously says, there are very few people in Jewish history that said, I purposely want to separate myself from God. Very few people. You have Menashe, you have
Ammon.
Yeah, Ammon. You have the I think Rav Akash. I think it's Rav Akash. I think there's very few people who purposely rebelled against God.
Was Rehoboam?
What?
Rehoboam?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm saying Rechavam. I'm not sure. Yeravam ben Nevat. Yeravam ben Nevat. Right.
Rehoboam was
Right.
Solomon's son.
Right. Exactly. So the thing with Yeravam ben Nevat, he was a sinner and he would cause others to sin. But purposely, I'm not sure. But the point is, most people when they sin, they're not thinking God doesn't want me to do it. I'm going to do it anyway. Remember that story I told you. A lot of these stories I repeat because they're powerful stories of the guy who was a big chazan before the war. I think it was in Bells. Yeah, in Bells, he was a big chazan, and he went through the war and he lost his family and he was not religious, and it was outside the shul, and he was sitting outside the shul smoking on Shabbos. So the Rebbe, the Belzer Rebbe told him. Belzer Rebbe lost his last name was Halberstam. Lost his wife and I think 10 or 11 kids. And he got remarried. That's a whole story who he married to also. Anyway, so he said, I called him in, I want him to be the chazan. So he said, but Rebbe, you have a guy, he knows better. It's one thing you don't know better. The guy knows better, and where is he smoking? In front of the shul, on Shabbos. It's like he doesn't know. He sees people coming to shul in their black and whites, So the Rebbe started crying and said, it's not him smoking, it's the Germans that are smoking. The Germans in him are smoking. He's not smoking. And the whole story how he came back. But no Jew wants to, like that other story I once told you about the professor who didn't come to the class from Rabbi Stenzaltz. Remember that story? Rabbi Stenzaltz, Evan Yisrael, he used to give a class, 4 professors in Hebrew University. There was one professor that refused to come. So he said, why? He said, how come you don't come? I don't belong at your class. Why? So let me explain to you, Rabbi. Because he was angry at God because of the war thing. So he says, on every Saturday, I make sure to go out to eat. And I don't go to a restaurant that's close by, to walking distance. I make sure to travel. And then when I go there, I don't order anything on the menu. I make sure to order lobster. So you see, I don't belong in your class. So the Rabbi said, we both keep Shabbos. I just keep it in a more traditional way. You keep it in a less traditional way. Because you don't do it on Tuesday, you do it on Shabbos. Why? Because it's a holy day. And you don't eat that food on Tuesday. You eat the special food. I also eat special foods on Shabbos. And so we're both the same. Just the guy realized, by not believing in God, so to speak, he believes in God, right? So most people want to have the connection to God. So why do you do it? Because you're not thinking. So the person who in the example over here, the woman who's committed adultery, will be willing to give up her life as not to convert, but she'll commit adultery. And in whose book is one okay, one's not? Serving idols and committing adultery is part of the same 10 Commandments. You can't say, this, this, no. That's.
Is it true that every Jew gets a warning before he is committing something that requires death? A mikah?
No. That is. I'm not. If you're referring to this, in order for the court to carry out capital punishment, there has to be warning.
Yes.
Yeah, but that not only that, there has to be warning. There has to be acknowledgement of the warning. According to the Gemara, it's almost impossible for the court to actually carry out capital punishment. That's why it says in Gemara Sanhedrin, if the court would kill somebody, execute somebody once in 7 years or 70 years, they were considered a murderous court, because it doesn't make sense that
a blood court.
Yeah. So the hefresh. So what's the problem? Bottom of 317 in the old print. The hefresh. What's the difference? It's by her. The woman who's sinning this terrible thing. Between the sin of idolatry and the sin of adultery. By the way, you should know, very interesting. I have a book. Well, it's a very good book. Don't steal it, please. A lot of good books disappear. But there's a book. It's all based on the Ten Commandments. And what he does in that book is he brings all these various midrashim and commentaries. And one of the interesting things he does, he takes the first 5 and the second 5. And the fact that they're opposite each other, parallel to each other, means there's a comparison. So believing in one God is opposite, don't murder, because a person is created in the image of God. And don't serve any other God is opposite, don't commit adultery. Because when a person serves idols, what is he doing? He's cheating on God with another, right? He's committing adultery. It's spiritual adultery. It's the same, very interesting, it's a very, very good book.
But that's specifically for adultery.
Idolatry and adultery
adultery.
are parallel to each other. Yeah, very, very interesting. And he goes through all 10, right? The same thing as like honor your parents is, for example.
better in English.
Yeah, exactly. Honor your parents is opposite. Don't be jealous. Because what's jealous? Jealous means like you feel that something else, you're entitled to something else. You don't know your place. Honoring your parents also requires you. It's very. It also goes this way and that way. It's very interesting. All right. So why is she making the difference? There is no difference. So gamkein ruach shus klipa, because this is the spirit of stupidity, spirit of foolishness. Hamislabeshus lo nefesh elokis. That is being clothed, even and it's enveloping the divine soul ad b'china chachma sheba, even to the level of intellect. Because sometimes you have impulse, but then you go to the person and you try to tell them what they're doing is wrong, and they'll start reasoning with you. No, really, it's okay. But then they'll say, this, oh, but you. Because where is the godly soul felt the most? In your intellect. Like we said in chapter 12, the mind rules over the heart. But here the person is so consumed by the desire to do something wrong, they'll reason it. It's not only uncontrollable impulse. They reason the whole thing away. The Rebbe has a great talk. I have to find it. The Rebbe has an unbelievable talk. The Rebbe says a person starts and telling himself this and telling, really it's wrong what I did, but it's not my fault. All the justifications, like 7 or 8 things. It's beautiful. It's like psychology 101. It's unbelievable. Rebbe spells it out. Aval, but the truth. But let's as they say in Yiddish, excuse the vulgar language. Tachasef and tish. You ever heard that saying? Tachasef and tish. Tachasef and tish is
Tachat even esh.
Huh?
Tachat even esh.
Yeah. Tachasef means. It literally means you put your dish on the table. Means let's talk real for a second, okay? Cut the garbage, right? The truth is, even what we call a minor sin, what is a mitzvah? Mitzvah is God's will. A person doesn't, think of it like murder and jaywalking. You're both criminals. The difference is, the punishment. The difference is the social impact. But the truth of the matter is, you jaywalk, you're a criminal. I know it sounds, but right?
Okay, so if you don't jaywalk, then you're doing a mitzvah.
No.
Well, you're not doing it ever because you're not jaywalking.
Now you're bringing up something else. The idea of that you get credit for not doing an avera is only when you have the opportunity to do the avera. Mm-hmm. Right? You don't get credit for an avera you don't have the capacity to do. That doesn't make any sense. Just like, for example, you don't get punished for a mitzvah you didn't do. It's not doesn't apply to you.
Would Avram get punished for not having children
Avram who?
if he didn't have?
It wasn't Avram's fault. Avram tried.
That's what I'm asking you. That's exactly the reason why.
No, if you try and it's out of your hands, that's not. That's God's business, right? You can't get punished. When a person does an avera, saying who betachlis hapirud, he is completely separated from God's oneness. As we learned, I think we learned this already. That Anaychi Hashem Lekecha, the first commandment, is the source of all the positive commandments, right? And don't have any idols is the source of all negative commandments. God is everywhere, and God has a very strict code of conduct. So if you want to be, if a person acts the way he's supposed to, what are you doing? You're testifying to God's unity, God's presence. If a person doesn't act that way, what is he basically saying? Is God not watching in this spot? Isn't that idolatry? If you say God is everywhere but here, that's idolatry. Right? I think we got into this last time. That's the difference between the way Jews have to believe in God and the way Goyim have to believe in God. So the whole argument is is Christianity idolatry or not? A Jew obviously can't become a Christian, but is Christianity idolatry?
Of course.
For a Jew,
I
no.
guess so.
For a Jew, for sure.
For sure.
Question is for a Gentile. Is a
Measured
Gentile?
based on 7 mitzvot
For a
of Noach?
Gentile?
Yeah.
For 7 mitzvot of Noach?
Up
If you
until
measure by
the,
that?
No, this is an
the
argument.
Trinity.
It is,
Yeah.
but this is an argument. I was listening to in the class that the rabbi explained that for Gentiles believing in an imperfect unity, like they believe in this tripart deity, right?
That's part of the list. That's one of the things on the list of things that would make them clearly.
No, I'm not talking for us, for them.
I get it. I get
Right.
it for them. I'm saying even for them.
It's like, so according
Just because they're made aware of Hashem through Christianity doesn't give Christianity a stamp of kashrut for the goy.
well, I mean, many commentaries say that Christianity and Islam did a great service because they brought the Gentiles from paganism to the belief in one God. Now it's imperfect belief, yeah, but it's much better what they.
That was
so-
God's will.
You could argue that we had better relationships with the pagan nations than with the Christian ones,
Well, I mean,
No, but
and we still do. by the way.
and the pagan nations that don't perceive us as a threat.
Yeah.
The Christians.
You could argue that.
No, but I think
I wouldn't
Maimonides
call
says.
it a cancer, but you could call it a growth on the body of Israel, just like Islam is a growth on the body of Ishmael.
Yeah. I'm saying,
So
but
you can't just say it's like
I
another goy.
know. So
Maimonides
I think Maimonides and other commentaries say that some good has come out of it. Now, so there are some commentaries that say that for a Christian,
Absolutely.
for a Gentile, it's okay that he believes in Christianity. Why? Because he believes in
Tova.
because he believes in imperfect unity, but at least he believes in a God. But for us, we believe Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. There is no other deity. Not only that, there is no place void of him. So when a person says God's everywhere except here where I'm stealing, he's watching everywhere else except right here.
Right here.
It's the equivalency of idolatry. First of all, stupidity. God's everywhere but here. I forgot the zip code. I mean, if you think about it. You know, I was once talking to a guy about working on Shabbos. He was telling me, "Oh, Rabbi, I have to work on Shabbos because I have to support my family." So I asked the guy, I said, "You believe in God?" "Yeah." "You believe God takes care of the 7.5 billion people?" "Yeah." I said, "I'm asking you a question. How much money do you make in a year? 60, 70, 80,000, right? How much money do you make on Shabbos? 10,000, 15,000? So let me ask you a question. So God is okay taking care of 7.5 billion people, but somehow your $15,000, no, God can't do it. Hey, you know, that's going to break the bank. No, if you think about it, it's very small-minded. That's exactly what we do. And we all do it, by the way. Unless you're a Beinani or a Tzaddik, we all do it. We all make those stupid calculations. It's ridiculous. The truth of the matter is, when we do a mitzvah, we're connected. When we do an avera, he says, bottom of 318, we're in a state of separation. Even more than the forces of impurity, the other side, the klippa, and the cover, the shell, and the Christ that calls God, Elakim Acherim, other powers, Avodah Zarah Mamash, in worse than idolatry. And worse than all the impure things. Why? Because we started off the beginning of the class saying they all function like they're supposed to. The person who's doing an Aveira, you're the one not functioning like you're supposed to. Shame. And what are the impure things that come from the source of impurity? The impure animals, the beasts, birds, and all the creepy crawly things. The chamaimer, and like we tell a person, you think you're special, you think you're it. You teish kadmach. A gnat. A gnat is like a mosquito, a little bug. And why is that the worst? Why is that the worst creature? So Gemara says because every single creature takes in and gives out. And that signifies you take, but you also contribute. The gnat only takes in, doesn't contribute. Huh? Yeah, the gnat is a type of mosquito, yeah. So and that is the lowest creature by God, in the Torah. Because you only take for yourself, and you never contribute. So we're saying, you tell a person, you think you're special, the mosquito, which is the worst, it came before you. Pirush, that means the af yitosh. Even a mosquito, a gnat, that takes in and doesn't give out. Which represents, because everything in the material world is a representation of the spiritual world. So the gnat is a representation of a klippa hayesha tachtein, the lowest form of klippa or rechaika. Because what's the chief characteristic of godliness? Giving, helping, chesed, outward, right? It says Hashem created the world. It's a representation of chesed, of outwardness. Yitosh is only giving in. Godliness went to the furthest point. Kademes is precedes, is higher. Than a person, the sinner. Because the descent and the going down. Because he's taking God's will is going so far. And if the gnat is better than him, and for sure all the other impure animals like the chazer and everything else is better than him. Even the bad animals, the vicious animals, that all of them do not. But why? Because the snake, the lion, all these vicious animals, they don't change from their tafkid, from their purpose. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. And they obey God's commandment, even though they cannot perceive it. And the animal's not acting that way because they say, "Oh, God told me to." They don't perceive it, but their spirit, their mazel perceives it. Like I said, the Alter Rebbe is saying something very interesting. When Adam was created, Adam and Chava were created, Hashem told Adam, and the fear of the animals are going to be upon you. What does that mean? I think the animals were conscious of our person's greater.
Maybe because he named them.
So
Create some kind of relationship between them.
that's not why. I'm asking another question. The story of Daniel in the lion's den. Is that a miracle? Familiar with the story of Daniel in the lion's den?
No, it was.
He was a good animal.
It was a miracle because there appeared a larger lion in the cave that this lion. I've heard
That's why it was a miracle. So on the surface,
that being a miracle, a nature of a miracle.
so yeah, on the surface it's a miracle because Nebuchadnezzar got mad at Daniel, and he threw him into the lion's den, and the lions were hungry, and the lions didn't eat him.
Miracle.
So to us it's a miracle, but if you learn over here, it's not a miracle.
No, but the reason why it's a miracle is why they didn't eat him.
But why didn't they eat him?
Because I think it was Gabriel that was in there as a lion.
If you learn,
Was it the angel Malach Gabriel?
I'm not sure.
It was either Michael or Gabriel.
Right, but if you learn over here, if you take the Pashtus Hakos, if you take the plain reading of the text, an animal is naturally afraid of a human being. That's why Hashem created the world. Animals are not. How come animals attack human beings? Because the animals don't sense a human being. Your glasses. Animals don't sense a human being. What do they sense? Another animal. What's an animal? An animal is an animal. What's the medrash? We're talking about a Pashtus Hakos. The animal is an impulsive creature. When it senses another impulsive creature, it attacks. A human being is defined by its ability to overcome its impulses. So when a person does that, so Daniel was a tzaddik. So an animal is not going to attack a human being no matter how hungry it is, because it's a human being. There's a story that happened like 500-600 years ago, maybe more. I'm not sure. Around that age, there was the community in Israel was very poor, and they sent the rabbi to Turkey, Constantinople, to collect money. He came to the port. Nobody's around. What happened? The Sultan had a lot of the kings. They had their own private zoos. The lions got loose. So everybody's afraid. This rabbi was a holy person, and he walked in the street and he grabbed one lion by one ear, and the other lion came. He grabbed the lion by the other ear, and he walked him back to the Sultan's palace, put him in the cage, and the Sultan was all. So he gave him a reward, and that helped the Jewish community back in Israel. But what happened? It's not a miracle. For us, it's a miracle because we're so used to people acting that way. But Daniel, all these people, it's not a miracle. Because if you are in Tzelem Elokim, if you're in the image of God, the animals are afraid of you. Because if you see, this is straight out in the Torah. It says in the middle of 320, and the fear of Yichitchem and dread, will be, by the way, this is the whole thing. You remember the whole story with Cain kills Hevel? And what happens? What does Cain tell God?
Where am I, my brother's keeper?
No, but after that, that's what I'm saying. But now, after he admits, He says, "No, I'm afraid." Who's Cain afraid of? Adam, you think did Cain think his own parents were going to kill him? So because Cain acted like an animal, so now he goes to God. He says, "Now the animal's going to kill me." So so that's what it says. Hashem puts a special sign on him that the animal shouldn't kill him. It says, a wild beast will never defy a human being. Ella in Cain, only if the animal sees another animal. That's the problem. Tzaddikim, and this is why they don't attack the righteous. She'ain selam elikim mistalik mal paneim, because a tzaddik is always in the divine image, and that's why, by the way, going back to the whole story of Adam, that it says that the animals were naturally submissive to Adam, and Adam says, "No, I'm not the boss. There's a greater boss," and that's why we have Rosh Hashanah. Adam crowned God king. That's where Rosh Hashanah comes from. He says, "Kol chayis rois iskafin kamayu." The evil beasts are humbled. Like it says in Zayah by Daniel begoyva reis. By Daniel in the lion's den. The lions were naturally afraid to him. Lions don't eat trees. No matter how hungry they are, they don't eat trees. It's not food. Lions don't eat people. If people act like people, like animals, then that's the way it is. Vim Cain. So now taking that into account. So why does a person do things wrong? Because he's not thinking, like an animal. The sinner of 321 in the old print. Where are we in the new print?
329.
Okay, yeah. For this case, the sinner and the one who violates God's will, forget about the severity of the sin. B'shas ma'aseh, at that time it would tachlis harichok b'shas
Sever mitzvah, ba'avera.
Sorry. At the time of the Aver, sorry?
Afilu ba'avera.
Yeah, right. Even the smallest of Aver.
Where's your mind?
Yeah, exactly. Even right, a Freudian slur, right?
Where's your
right?
clean mind, you
exactly.
clean boy, you.
He's in a state of separation, because the idea of holiness is God's everywhere. And when you say, but you don't even realize you're saying it. When a person sins, what he's really saying is God is not here. Like the famous joke where the communist had a son who was a believer, to his dismay, and he wanted to convince his son, so he wrote a letter of note, and he put it by his pillow. He said, "God is nowhere." Kid got all excited in the morning. He said, received a message from heaven. It said God God is now here. Right? Set up, right? So the sinner, when he doesn't realize that he's saying it, God is not here. I mean, if you think about it, Yoser Mikol Baal Chaim, and he's denying God's. You watch National Geographic and the safari, and the animals are attacking, and you sit there back, and even though they're very vicious and everything else, that's God's way. God, the circle of life in the Lion King, right? That's the way it works. They're not being bad. They're being lions, and all the small and all the animals, the shkatzim and ramashim, even the lowliest bugs and creatures and reptiles. Everyone. When a person sins, he's lower. All right. Should we stop here or should we continue? Continue. So now the Alter Rebbe is going to ask a question. If that's the case, if doing an avera is so bad, then we have the famous standard that if someone's life is in danger, what do?
Save him.
We know we violate the Torah, right? We'll violate Shabbos, and a person who's sick can eat treif, right? You do whatever you. Pikuach nefesh. Pikuach nefesh is when a person's life is in danger. It pushes away the whole Torah except for the big three, right? So, but if doing an avera is so bad, then we should say, okay, die. Good question, no? So let's get into that. This is we're holding by the 16th Tishvat. And the fact that we find the principle that life overrides all the other averes. The ones where it says you transgress and you don't get and you should not get killed. The Gemara says that all the averes, if a person says transgress this commandment, or die, a person has to transgress it and not die, except if it's idolatry, murder, or immoral relationships. So how does it work? So Hainu, it says Hainu Kipir Chazal. This is what the rabbi said. Amra Torah says Chilul of Shabbos Achas. It's better to violate this one Shabbos Kadesh Yishmor Shabbos Zabre, in order that the person should be able to keep all the Shabbos. So you might think Shabbos is not so special because you're allowed to violate Shabbos. The Alter Rebbe says don't make that mistake. Because the Alter Rebbe is going to say the truth of the matter is we don't really understand why. Hashem said that. If Hashem would have said die, would have died. It's called Gzeres HaKasav. Now, many times we get into the trap of thinking there's major mitzvahs and there's like minor mitzvahs. The people come to show the sever, right? I tell people all the time, the same God who you go so crazy to hear the sever, right? And you eat matzah on Pesach, the same God says it's the same weight putting tefillin on every day. It's the same thing. I don't know why sever, maybe because it's once a week, once a year. But people have a whole chart. There's major mitzvahs and minor mitzvahs. First round picks and 7th round pick. It's not true. People make this whole. Rebbe says in Pirkei Avos, don't do that.
It isn't true because the first round pick will get injured, and then you end up falling out of the. Who else has a fantasy football team? That's
you sound like a Jets fan.
No,
One's a preseason game, one's a Super Bowl.
I'm just saying it's a fantasy football conversation that I'm having here.
Yeah, it's a.
Who's with me? No?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I'm not a fantasy football.
So v'loi. Let's see if we can knock out the rest of the chapter. Okay, v'loi mishum kalas havesh v'chorim. It's not because you think Shabbos is more lenient. That's not true. Teida, you should know that the Alter Rebbe says. You think Shabbos is minor. Shabbos chamura v'shkol kavod azar. Shabbos is more strict than idolatry. Le'inyan shchita mumor davar echad. In halacha, is something crazy. If somebody serves idols, and he slaughters an animal, you can eat it. The shchita is kosher because shchita, ritual slaughter, is something you really have to trust the guy, because in shchita the guy has to slide the blade. It's kind of like playing the violin. Slide the blade. He can't press. He can't lift. You're not hacking. It's 2 movements. It's 1-2. That's it. Whether it's a chicken or an animal, it's one quick movement. So you have to trust the sheikhet.
Sound effects will be added in later.
Right, exactly. Right. Right.
The laughs too.
Exactly. Laugh track. Exactly. So, but you really have to trust the sheikhet, because what if he pushed down? You would never know, right? It's like they say there are three professions. You have no idea if the guy is cheating you. It's a mechanic, a dentist, and a plumber. Right? The guy's under the hood. You have no idea. Or the guy doesn't tighten the nut all the way, and all of a sudden there's a leak, and he has a drill in your mouth. No, you're wrong. Right? Yeah, you have no idea. The same thing with the sheikhet. You have no idea if the guy's being honest or not. But if a guy serves idols, you can try. You can. I mean, not ideal, but you can eat from the shechita. But if the guy doesn't keep Shabbos, you can't eat from the shechita.
Wait, and he serves idols and keeps Shabbat?
Yeah. I know it seems crazy, but
No, I'm just.
Yeah.
I was asking.
Yeah.
It's not just a random idol worshiper that knows
Right.
how to be a shochet.
right, yeah.
That's not kosher.
In the first temple time, by the way, this was a common phenomenon. They were observant Jews, but they
Also had idols. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why the first temple was destroyed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So-
talked about it.
Right. So you imagine. So you think serving idols is so much worse than Shabbos. That's why you can't serve idols, but you could violate Shabbos. That's not true. In some ways, Shabbos is even more strict. And for example, a person who's a habitual it says interesting sexual offender, Yeah, it doesn't. Sexual offender, by the way, doesn't mean like we think it means. It means a person who does what he's not supposed to, right? Also, it says also we be able to eat from this ritual slaughter. Hafilu hachi, and still the Torah says you have to give up your life rather than serve idols or immoral sexual relationship, but not for Shabbos. So that means if someone says, "Oh, I have to be with this woman, or else I feel like I'm gonna die," he says, "Okay, die, but die." You know, that really. The Rambam says, even if the doctor says the only way he'll get better is lovesick. Is that something right called lovesick?
Yeah.
I think it's a term that way. Lovesick. He's lovesick and he has to be with this woman or else he'll die. The halacha is,
Let him die.
right? Yeah. You gotta ask yourself, you feeling lucky? Are you? Punk. Right?
The hot wants what the hot wants.
Exactly, right. About two. Where's that from?
It's from Woody Allen. It's what he said about his daughter that he fell in love with.
I don't want to know.
Edit
The-
that part out.
Exactly.
Woody Allen
Yeah,
was weird.
the
Anyway.
adopted
Anyway.
We don't
daughter
get,
of.
our
Alright.
editing team still doesn't
This
work.
is, but that part, that part's for 9:31 after the class ends. But if a person says, you know, there's certain things on Shabbos, you know, there's a halacha that if a person is like really hungry in Yom Kippur and they feel like they're gonna pass out, you're supposed to go to them and whisper to them, listen, you know, it's Yom Kippur today, you should try. But if they say no, and if the doctor says, listen, they're gonna pass out, you have to give them something, you give them, right? Because pikuach nefesh, life-threatening, overrides Shabbos. Yom Kippur is a great Shabbos, but you shouldn't think that Shabbos is weaker than you know, immorality and murder and idolatry. Ella gzeiras hakasavim. It's a scriptural decree. It's because the Torah says so. That's it. Why the Torah says so? I mean, there's a reason, but we'll never know the actual reason. Ella. But now, let's get back on track. Oof, I'm not going to be able to finish. Ella la'achash ma'aseh chaytem. Now after it says now that the person did it, im hua me'averish im bahem kairos so misa b'deshmaim. There are certain laws where the Torah says you got to pay money. There's certain laws you got to bring carbon, and certain laws are very bad. And there's a punishment from heaven. It's called misa b'dei shemayim, death from heaven. And something called kares, where a person is cut off. In English language, excision. Person's cut off. What that exactly means? Person could be cut off from the world to come, or so he functions as a human being, but
Doesn't it call בעברית?
correct.
Correct.
Yeah, he cut off. I mean, he's cut off.
Yeah.
There's a little discussion on what cut off from what. Cut off from Olam Haba, Garden of Eden. You know, he's cut off. He's still a walking, functioning human being, but he's cut off from his Judaism. The whole discussion. So if a person does something, we'll call it not so bad. She'ein nefesh elokis, mesa lagamri, that his divine soul doesn't die completely, is not shut out completely, and it's not cut off from his divine source. Rak, only, I don't know the word only, except is a better translation here. Except nifkam ktsas. So you have to look at every mitzvah and every avera like this. You get a base model car. Okay, now you can pimp your ride with all this stuff, or
Pick my ride.
right, or you can treat your car like a jalopy. It's your car, but at the end the lease is up and you got to give the car back. Now,
So is God exhibit?
yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. So whenever you do a mitzvah, you're adding subwoofers and you're adding a spoiler. Did you see? By the way?
Don't forget the fish tank.
Yeah. By the way, did you see this new trend of like these cars running around with like lights on them, like all lit up?
The Santa cars.
Oh, on the outside.
And the outside, the whole
Yeah,
car.
yes.
This is new.
Yes,
This is
I've
new.
seen
I
this.
can't say I've seen this before.
I've seen a few of them now.
I saw it.
One the other night.
Yeah.
I saw one a couple weeks ago
Yes,
heading
yes.
up to
Yeah.
Orlando,
Murder-
middle of the
Yeah.
night.
Murder said to me, he says,
hell is
are
this?
there lights on the outside?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it was
sure.
So
I
when you
found a way
do
to-
a
To
mitzvah,
wrap those around a car.
so when you do a mitzvah, you are embellishing and you're enhancing
Yeah.
your neshama. You're enhancing the connection to Hashem. When God forbid a person does an avera, it's causing a dent. Now when the lease is up, and God says, "Hey, I gave you a car in pristine condition. Are you bringing it back in better condition, or are you bringing it back, God forbid, beat up?" If God doesn't accept beat up cars.
Or bumper to bumper.
All right, no, there is no bumper to bumper insurance. What you got to do is you got to send it to the body shop. And you send it to the body shop. I have teenagers that are driving, and unfortunately they sometimes they play ping pong with the car, or bounce off the bumper cars, and just recently my daughter hit someone's mirror, a Lexus, $1,300, just for the mirror, right? And it hurt. But what are you gonna do? I have to pay for the car. God gave you a soul, and I'm sorry, I screwed up. Okay, it hurts. That's what the 12 months after a person dies for the first year, that's what it is. It's taking out all those scratches and dents. So that scratch is called a pagam. A pagam is a blemish, a dent. So when a person does an avera, it's not a major accident, it's called pagam ktsas. It's a small dent that causes this sin causes the connection. Now the problem is, I think we're gonna.
So a mitzvah would be gap insurance.
No, it's not insurance. No. The mitzvah is not gap insurance. There is no guarantee because you did a mitzvah. You're not gonna do an avera.
So bar mitzvah is an oil change?
Yeah. Okay, I think you're going too far.
No, but you have the ability to repent.
Yes, 100%. And the third part of Tanya will talk about the difference between repenting and fixing. But the point is, the good thing about doing a mitzvah is when you do a mitzvah, it makes it easier to do another mitzvah, and it helps you to stay away from the avera. When a person does an avera, it makes it easier to do another avera, meaning it's harder. A person is a creature of habit. So when you get into a habit of like when you get into exercise, what's the hardest time to do exercise? The first time or the second time. Once you get into the habit of doing exercise, then you're already in the habit, right? You're in the habit of eating healthy. But when you eat hamburger and French fries every day, and all of a sudden now salad, like I'm starving, right? You need to. That's what it is. Okay, we're going to pause here. Next week we'll finish off chapter 24. We'll get into chapter 25. Yeah, Monday. Yeah.
Monday. You're not gonna